In August 2018, as its stock hit the $200 mark, Apple became the first $1 trillion US company in history. Welcome to our animated show of history. This episode presents to you the history of the world's first trillion-dollar company. Apple was founded by Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak in April 1976. Stephen Paul Jobs was born to Abdul Fattah Jandali and Joanne Schiebel on February 24, 1955 in San Francisco, but then was adopted by Paul Jobs and Claire Hagopian, a Bay Area blue-collar couple whom Jobs is extremely grateful to and always considers as his parents 1,000%. By the time he was 10, Jobs was deeply involved in electronics and befriended many of the engineers in the neighborhood. While studying at Monte Loma Elementary School in Mountain View, Jobs hardly made any friends and was frequently bullied that he considered dropping out of school. When he was 13, Jobs was given a summer job by Bill Hewlett. He then entered Homestead High School with Bill Fernandez, a fellow electronics hobbyist. They decided to enroll in John McCollum's Electronics 1. McCollum and the rebellious Jobs would eventually clash, and Jobs began to lose interest in the class. Jobs and Steve Wozniak were introduced in 1971 by a mutual friend. The two Steves got along thanks to their shared love of technology. The two Steves attended the Homebrew Computer Club together, a computer hobbyist group in California's Menlo Park. Woz produced the first computer with a typewriter-like keyboard and the ability to connect to a regular TV as a screen. The computer was later christened the Apple I, which was the archetype of every modern computer. Jobs saw Woz's computer, recognized its brilliance, and sold his VW microbus to help fund its production. Wozniak sold his HP calculator, and together they founded Apple Computer Inc. on the 1st of April 1976 alongside Ronald Wayne. Jobs convinced him to take 10% of the company's stock and act as an arbiter should he and Woz come to blows. But Wayne backed out 12 days later, selling for just $500, a holding that would have been worth $72 billion 40 years later. Apple's very first logo was drawn by Ronald Wayne, depicting Isaac Newton under an apple tree. After that, the Apple logo was designed again with the rainbow scheme. It was used for 22 years until Steve Jobs had asserted the Apple logo after he returned from Apple Farm. A year after foundation, the Apple II was released. It was a much more commercial product and came with its own case. It had a MOS technology processor running at just 1 MHz with 4 KB of RAM and was one of the 3 1977 Trinity computers generally credited with creating the home computer market. The Apple III was designed to take on the business environment that was released on May 1980. Because of lacking the cooling fan as Jobs wished to, the company had to recall thousands of Apple III. On December 12, 1980, Apple launched the IPO of its stock. It instantly created more millionaires, about 300, than any company in history. The Apple I, II, and III computers were text-based machines, much like the earliest IBM PCs. But Jobs wanted something more intuitive. So the Lisa launched in 1983 with its graphical user interface in place. The Macintosh debuted the following year. Jobs was forced out of Apple in 1985 after a long power struggle with the company's board and its then CEO, John Sculley. Jobs then took a few of Apple's members with him to found Next, that specialized in computers for higher education and business markets. Apple purchased Steve Jobs' company Next in 1996. This would not only bring Steve Jobs back to Apple's management, but Next technology would become the foundation of the Mac OS X operating system. In 1997, Jobs stepped in as the CEO to begin a critical restructuring of the company. At the 1997 Mac World Expo, Steve Jobs announced that Apple would be entering into a partnership with Microsoft. Included in this was a 5-year commitment from Microsoft to release Microsoft Office for Macintosh as well as a $150 million investment in Apple. While discontinuing Apple's licensing of its operating system to third-party computer manufacturers, one of Jobs' first moves was to develop the iMac, a family of all-in-one Macintosh desktop computers. In 1998, the first iMac was released. At that time, Apple had suffered a series of setbacks as consumers increasingly opted for Wintel, Windows PCs, machines instead of Apple's Performa models. The iPod was released in late 2001. The iPod line came from Apple's Digital Hub category when the company began creating software for the growing market of personal digital devices. 3 years later, the iTunes Music Store was launched, with 2 million downloads in the first 16 days. The first version of the iPhone became publicly available on June 29, 2007 in selected countries. While it wasn't the first smartphone, it leapfrogged far beyond the competition and launched the mobile revolution. The MacBook Air, released in 2008, was the biggest change in Apple's laptop line for years and invented a whole new category of computers called Ultrabooks. In August 2011, Jobs died of respiratory arrest related to the pancreatic neuroendocrine tumor. Apple then bought Beats, which made headphones and ran a music service, for $3 billion in 2014. A year later, Apple released Apple Watch. So far, Apple has released 11 generations of iPhone along with several versions of iPad. The iPhone is one of the most widely used smartphones in the world, and its success has been credited with helping Apple become one of the world's most valuable publicly traded companies. So, are you using an iPhone? Please tell us in the comments. Also, check out our other animated history shows. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.